Swear to God, it's some real tits, real shit. Whole squad gotta feel this. Swear to God, this light work, back and forth through the night to the fight work. I'm that shit you are gonna need a diaper. When it come to getting pussy, I'm a lifer. When you thought I couldn't get nicer, your boy step in the ring like Tiger. And you wonder how good my mood is. Walk around the hood, all I get is deuces. Bitch, me, you ain't know the food is. Getting 8 shades all through the movies. Yeah, motherfucker, I'm gooder. Would you like some popcorn along with that butter? I would like a sister along with that mother. What's up? Walk around like what's up? Everybody in the bar know I got buzzer. Looking at me like what up, brother? Looking back like bugger, shut up. What's up? Walk around like what's up? Everybody in the bar know I'm trying to cut up. You ain't trying to put up, shut up. Fuck up. Swear to God I'm an animal. Killer on the down low. Swear to God I'm the baddest out. Alright, go ahead, get your cameras out. What the fuck is up with that bitch over there? Me mugging, I think I should stand up and go see if it needs some. See these biggest motherfuckers right beside of me. Known them their whole life, they would never lie to me. This is the beginning of a dynasty. You should be thinking of more ways you could be kind to me. Swear that your whole crew is boo-boo. Looking like some news that I could easily chew through. I know this ain't probably what you used to, but everybody welcome on the wagon, go choo-choo. When people tell me I regret that in the morning, I sleep till noon. I sleep till noon. When people tell me I regret that in the morning, I sleep till noon. I sleep till noon. What's up? Walk around like what's up? Everybody in the bar know I got buzzer. Looking at me like what up, brother? Looking back like bugger, shut up. What's up? Walk around like what's up? Everybody in the bar know I'm trying to cut up. You ain't trying to put up, shut up. Fuck up. Swear to God, got dick game. Bitch, man, bitch tank like a fish tank. Swear to God, shoot switch, man. Puddle so big, could've been a piss tank. Look at my lifestyle, put it on DVD. Look how I'm knee deep. This is my CTV. Up in the TV, smoke it with 3 keys. Up in some beefy. These are my GGG. Get it right, man. Get it right. Swear to God, I'm a GGG. Get it right, man. Get it right. Swear to God, I'm a GGG. Get it right, man. Get it right. Swear to God, I'm a GGG. Get it right, man. Get it right. Swear to God, I'm a GGG. When people tell me I regret that in the morning, I sleep till noon. I sleep till noon. When people tell me I regret that in the morning, I sleep till noon. I sleep till noon. What's up? Walk around like what's up? Everybody in the bar know I got buzzer. Looking at me like what up, brother? Looking back like bugger, shut up. What's up? Walk around like what's up? Everybody in the bar know I'm trying to cut up. You ain't trying to put up, shut up. Fuck up. Hey, shut the fuck up though. You. Hey, I don't like this dude. This dude looking at me right here. He kick the fuck out of the club right now. Shut the fuck up. You know, I'm trying to get a cut up. I'm just shooting the breeze. I just got too much swag. The swag's on fleek. I got guns, hoes, money, troll, cars, boats. You should know. Dogs, bros, squad, bros. Hold up, whoa. You name it. Guns, hoes, money, troll, cars, boats. You should know. Dogs, bros, squad, bros. Hold up, whoa. You name it. I'm throwing money off the balcony into the crowd because I want to. Goddamn, I feel good. Sure that you already know. One thing's understood, ain't nothing that stop my glow. Doggone it, can I just take my time? All these cop chasing motherfuckers watching all around me. I'm like, bitch.
The greatest single cause of atheism in the world today is Christians.
Say what we say when we say it again, then you can go home to your toys. All right, I'll say it again. Now can I go home to my toys?
Let me get this straight. You don't believe in God because of Alice in Wonderland?
And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my fingers upon thee.
Kick up the place, chop, kick up the place.
Irreverent. The End.fm. I am DJ Zouain. This is Irreverent. Welcome to it. Welcome to Irreverent. Welcome to the show. We had some switch ups, some things that we changed over the last few weeks. In case you did not know, we are now at at the end.fm. You can actually find all of our stuff, but we're doing the shows. We're doing a show every other week. So 1 week we're going to do the hijack, another week we're going to have a break to do production, and the next week we do Irreverent. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is an irreverent type of week. So it's Friday, it's 5:30. If you're on Twitch, if you're on Facebook, if you're on wherever the hell you are listening to us, thank you for doing so. The show is brought to you by the N.FM, the N.FM for all of your mixing and mixing and show podcast needs. You can download and subscribe and stream and be a part of the show all at the end.fm. Another thing that you could do at the end.fm is you could scroll down to the bottom to the Bud Docs logo, click on the Bud Docs logo, and set your appointment to get your medical card. Now you can get it today. So if you, for some reason, get if you have your cannabis card, if you need your cannabis card the day of, you can actually go get it recommended, and there is not a 7 to 10 day window like there was in the past. So you could go there, just go to the end.fm, scroll down to Bud Docs, to the Bud Docs logo, and get your medical card. I am DJ Zouain, the audible chocolate of podcasting. We have some things to talk about, and for talks like this, these types of talks, I like to have people that actually know what the hell they're talking about and are not just, trying to make funnies out of serious topics, because that's what I do. And when I want somebody that knows what the hell they're doing, usually I find some sort of pastor or man of the cloth or something. And in this case, I brought my friend James Thompson. He is the homie, one of my oldest friends. We grew up together in church, and now we're talking about Jesus and shit. It's great. What's up, dude? How are you?
I'm doing great, man.
You know what? I'm gonna unmute you.
Oh, you're gonna unmute me? All right. Yeah, I'm doing great, man. Now that people can hear me.
Exactly. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, it's good to see you. It's good to be able to look at you by looking forward instead of off to the side. So I think our conversation this week's gonna be a bit more natural. You know what? Here's the thing. I have I am a one-man show. I run everything. I do the production. I do the show prep. I do, my buddies at Backstabber. They give me their music to use for rejoins because they're just so badass. I mean, listen to every one of any the past few years, any intro, any rejoin that I've used. It sounds like really good, very polished metal. That's Backstabber. You should check them out. Backstabber Punk. They're awesome. Big up Punk Rock Brian and Johnny B and Sarah and Victor and the drummer whose name I forget because he replaced Daniel. But anyway, also a sweetheart of a guy. But anyway, thank you for noticing the upgrade. Switching it up a little bit. Even got the lights turned on before we started. I hate you so much. Why don't you shut up? All right, you come over here and critique my production that I am doing at a one-man show. Hey, I'm pointing out how things are improving. Oh, yeah. That's a great thing. Improvement is great. Progress over perfection, man. Here's the thing. I understand backhanded comments when I see them. And I've known you long enough to know that. So screw you, bro. But anyway, thank you for coming up here. You know what? I didn't even put a banner over here of you. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to add I'm going to add your name to the thing. Okay. But why don't we do this? Let's start off by talking about the woke Christianity and wokeness. We have some things that we want to talk about today. So the first thing is that can you give us a little bit about the Christianity and wokeness book, I guess, that came out? Yeah. So Owen Strachan, released a book called Christianity and Wokeness, where he's critiquing other folks who say they're Christians, who profess to be Christians, who are adopting things that he views as part of the broader wokeness movement, whether it's, CRT, Black Lives Matter, any of these things kind of fall under kind of that umbrella of wokeness that is a catchphrase. Yeah, it's buzzwords. This culture, the culture of evangelical Christianity, is riddled
with all of that, you know?
Yeah. And so Mere Orthodoxy released a post, The People Who Divide Us, kind of giving a review and a critique of Owen's work. And they went to task saying, hey, this is not a primary issue. Like when we're talking about social engagement, social justice concerns, like this is not a core theological issue. This isn't well, if you believe in Jesus, you're going to do this, or you're going to believe this. It's not these secondary matters. And so Mere Orthodoxy does a good job kind of calling out Owen on this and pointing out the fact it's like he's effectively condemning brothers and sisters who are Orthodox, who know the faith, who are faithful, and he's saying, no, you're not. That he's basically accusing them of being unfaithful because they have a different political and social perspective than he does.
So what you're saying basically is that these guys are basically pulling the same old tricks that we grew up with, where we use buzzwords to make things.
I think the fashionable term now is dog whistles. Where it's where the right people know what you're saying when you say the magic words.
You know what?
Nothing makes you feel like a cult, like you're in a cult, like
like a good old dog whistle.
Being able to hear those magic words.
Well, but that's what happens though. Like that is exactly how we were trained. I mean,
in some respects, yeah. I mean,
like that's what. And the problem is,
we grew up in an age of assumptions where, like, what was it? You go to church, so that means that everybody's going to assume a whole bunch of stuff about you.
Oh yeah,
and it's like, and it's still the case today. Like you walk into most, especially conservative churches, theologically conservative churches, and you're going to see that same thing. There's an assumption that you believe certain things about culture and politics and how the Christian ought to relate to those things. And like that's something that has been with us for a long time, as long as we've had a modern culture. We've had these kinds of infighting.
Well, but it's touching back on something we talked about before, where it's like making the tent smaller, not bigger. And this is out of the article that we're discussing is out of mereorthodoxy.com. It's called The People Who Divide Us, reviewing Owen Strachan's Christianity and Wokeness. I guess. So Christianity and wokeness is, wokeness used to be, and this is the problem. Wokeness used to not be a pejorative term, which now it is. And that's a problem because from what I remember, the Jesus that I was taught about, the guy that I was taught about, he was kind of a hippie about it. You know, he really did. He really thought about the quote woke things that I joke about Californians doing.
He looked at the ways that his culture were off track. And his culture was predominated by, what was it? The Jewish religion. It's like, like you have, that was the predominant culture. And so there were things that were wrong in that culture and Jesus called it out. What was it? He pointed out the hypocrisy that was present around him and the ways that, like we're trying to correct folks who we should be regarding as brothers and sisters. We should be finding ways to work with them. And instead we're finding ways to fight and to separate and to create more division.
Well, ultimately what we've done is we've devolved. Christianity itself has devolved into like basically what you believe politically.
At this point, in many cases, what denomination you are a part of is probably very highly correlated to political party alignment. I'm sure somebody's done it. I'm sure Barna or Lifeway or somebody's done a study.
Oh, for sure.
Figure out. But I'd be willing to bet money that there's a pretty good correlation that, what was it? If you go to, it's like you're going to have like definitely like clearly red denominations. You're going to have clearly blue denominations. You're going to have some purplish ones to deal with. But
at the end of the day,
where you go to church says a lot about your politics.
Oh yeah,
and it shouldn't.
It really
should not.
And again, and I beat this horse to death. That's the way it used to be. It used to be not a thing Do me a favor. The microphone, make sure that the MXL is facing you, the sign that says MXL.
Okay.
The actual microphone itself, like right here.
Oh.
Like move the here, make it look like this. Jesus. I should have figured this out before.
Okay.
So make it so that it's the line is horizontal.
Okay.
The line that's going across the microphone. Here, I'm going to go over there.
Okay. I'm not sure what you're referring to. No. All right. Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. I have absolutely no idea how to tell you to have told me better what to do.
I tried. I'm glad that it wasn't me. I'm glad that I wasn't just being like an idiot.
It's like because the best you might have been able to do is like, hey, there's a couple of metal clamps there, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, but then you clamp them and then the thing, boom, it just falls.
It's like you have to give me the pre-instructions, like don't touch them yet.
Don't touch them yet. But there's a thing. But wokeness, like I said, it's a pejorative term now that it's used to identify basically people who you disagree with, and this is what Mere Orthodoxy was talking about.
Right.
I remember when Christianity was actually woke. You know what I'm saying? I remember when it was actually woke, when people actually cared about social issues that wasn't a backhanded way to get their agenda in. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, we'll give you food, but check out this track and listen to this hippie. Like it's I feel like there is a lot more of that now, a more transactional type of faith than there was back in the day.
Yeah, and I think some of that is a reflection of our culture. Like we're much more transactional.
Yeah.
Like what was it? If you offend me in this moment, like done.
It's
and you can get like this perma ban.
Yeah.
But then you also have our notion, because we're consumers, it's like I expect to give you something and for you to give me something of equal value.
Equal value, absolutely.
And that's that transactional way of thinking is just it's invaded so much of our culture.
So this Christian, like I said, wokeness is something that is inherently. There was a guy that did it a lot. Jesus, that was his name. And these people really like to throw his name around, name drop Jesus in order to get their way. And like you said, it's a lot more transactional. I haven't read the book, obviously. Yeah. I'm not going to because it sounds dumb, but it sounds pretty on brand with everything I've seen evangelical Christianity turn into.
It definitely seems like where we have some believers today who are basically throwing all, and I'm going to give them a bit of an out and say, I do believe these folks are believers. I think they're.
You do?
Yeah, I think they're walking down an errant path, but I do believe they know who Jesus is. They confess the truth about him. It's like, so I want to say it's like they are believers. They're just in error.
They're just morons.
Well,
I said that. That was me. That was Zouain. Zouain said that, not James.
But yeah, and so when we think about these things, like there is this section of Christianity, of evangelical Christianity, that has decided to just throw off any pretense and say, oh yeah, we're theologically conservative and we're politically conservative, and we're going to say that if you're not too, you're wrong.
You're exactly.
And so they've brought that tent all the way down and said like Christianity now is not just a religious movement; it is a political movement.
Oh yeah. It was by design.
Well, and it's crazy though, because like let's step back and think. It's like, was Jesus a political leader? Like he was a political figure. He was making political commentary,
of course,
when he's talking with the Pharisees and Sadducees about whether to pay taxes and whatnot. He's making a political argument.
Exactly.
But he's not a political leader. It's like he's not stepping out and saying, the problem with your society here is like you haven't yet adopted a constitution with its 10 amendments that you're then going to have to, change 17 more times. And, oh yeah, you're going to have to fix this thing where you say that certain people are less than actually people.
Yeah,
and we're basically saying Jesus is everything that we want him to be. Never mind what like we actually see presented to us in God's word.
In my eyes, the way that I've seen Christianity today, it's the 10th thing again. I felt back in the day like the Baptist church that we grew up in was not as inclusive as I'd like it to be, but definitely more inclusive than, let's say, the Church of Christ, the United Church of Christ, where it's like their brand of Christianity is it. Like if you even deviate from denomination, you're fucked, dude. You're out. Done.
No, and there's lots of Christian denominations that end up taking that line, whether implicitly or explicitly.
Is there a Baptist sub denomination that I felt like general quote unquote Baptist church? Is that a thing?
So yes, there's the General Association of Regular Baptists.
Get the hell out of here! Is that what they're really called?
That is one of the modern General Baptist denominations.
That is hilarious.
Because General Baptist is both a generic term, in a sense. The way I think you're
white label,
the way you're using it, versus I'm thinking of it in a very particular historical sense that can be traced back about 500 years.
Wow. Okay, so there is a General Baptist Church is both the white label term and a specific term.
Yes.
Wow.
It is both.
Good Lord. Isn't there like 200 different denominations of Baptists alone or something like that?
There's I think given the Baptist belief in liberty of conscience, I think it is probably safe to say that there are as many Baptist churches as there are Baptists.
It's crazy. It's crazy to me. Like, so this article from mereorthodoxy.com, it's by Andrew Bertodati and Razel Berry. I'm just, but yeah, very good article. Now, where does this come from? There's wokeness, and I feel like the same people who use the term woke as a pejorative term are the same people who are thinking about CRT.
Yeah, I think there actually is a huge overlap.
Like that's a circle. Like that Venn diagram is a circle.
Yeah, the folks who are not are. Yeah, there's like individual protrusions, little fingers coming out of the circle, to break the Venn diagram.
Oh, for sure. But at the end of the day, like the people that believe in CRT, for those people who are listening and going, what does this have to do with monitors? It's not computer monitors. It's critical race theory. Some topic that a sophomore in law school or something like that is being taught.
Yeah, I mean, critical race theory is again, it comes out of social psychology, sociology departments.
Okay,
I mean, it's a way of thinking about the long tail of historical discrimination. So when we think about the impact that slavery had on Africans brought to this country and enslaved, how do we measure the damage done that persists not just to those who suffered slavery directly, but to every generation that followed after them? And recognizing that there is a long-lasting echo when we have these kinds of really atrocious violations of humanity and human rights, which I think the example of chattel slavery here in the United States is a great example. It's like there are like lingering effects because that racism that allowed humans to subjugate other humans in such a horrific way, it didn't go away. It just changed.
Well, I mean, the slaves became...
It changed from, what was it? These people are enslaved to, oh, white guy, black gal, y'all can't get married because you have to come to us to get your license.
Yep.
It's like, and we're not going to let that happen.
And then from that, it went to, okay, y'all are slaves, to, all right, well, we'll just gather the people on some bogus charges and then make them, farm and pick berries and shit.
Basically, we turn them into a indentured servitude. What was it? By criminalizing who they are in some way.
Absolutely. And critical race theory has been, again, another one of these buzzwords or buzz phrases, I guess you could say.
And I think the thing to realize, this is an academic topic.
Yeah, it actually is a thing.
Like CRT is like high academia.
Yeah. So your elementary school child is not learning about critical race theory, or should not be learning about critical race theory, because
and unless their teacher recently graduated with, say, a master's degree in not just education but also in sociology and social psychology, and the sorts of departments that would even host any courses or professors that would ever want to talk about critical race theory, is like, chances are they've never heard of it.
Exactly.
Like most of your teachers, this is not on their radar, because it doesn't have to be, because it's not part of the core standards that they're teaching to. It's not a thing.
Now this book, I'm assuming, covers some of this CRT.
Yeah, it's going to get into it, because I think that's where the current really fanfare and fire is for cultural Christians and those who are engaging in political activism in addition to their Christian witness.
Sure.
And because this has become like a strange rallying point for both, again, Christian writers like Strachan, but also for just Republican politicians, this just kind of came out of nowhere as like, hey, there's this weird alignment. And it seems to be even stronger and more ferocious in terms of its practical effects than even the pro-life issues has been.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, this is another pro-life. This is the pro-life 2.0. They needed another.
I don't know about that, but
I think that it's one of those things that they're using to rally all of these people, because now the idea of banning abortion from where I'm standing, it's become a lot more we'll call it fashionable than it was when we were growing up. When we were growing up, it was still a sign of shame to have an abortion. Now it's not so much. So they're like, hey man, this is a time sensitive thing. Like, we're not going to have this flag to fly for too much longer.
Yeah. I think that's probably a better explanation of the intensity issue. That this is seen as being like, oh, this is only going to last, a year's worth of news cycle. So better
keep it fresh.
Quick. And again, I think the role of Black Lives Matter and the overlap there with some of the stuff that comes out of CRT. But I think getting into like Christians and CRT, how do we think about this stuff?
Yeah.
Critical race theory is a way for a non-believer that's been developed within a place in a space that does not have any Christian commitments.
Yeah.
And they're trying to reason about, how do we think about the way that society deals with the long historical tale of racial injustice.
Yeah.
And all the ways that it's expressed itself. And the ways that that redlining policies from the 40s and 50s, have had lasting damaging effects on neighborhoods across the country.
The people that I talk to,
and how do we think about it? How do we do something with that?
But that's the thing. I feel like a lot of the people that we talk to about this are people that underestimate the damage that those things have done and that have continued to do today.
Well, and I think that comes out in two different ways. Yes, I think there are absolutely folks who willfully dismiss the fact that, if I didn't do the original thing that caused all
exactly
the pain,
I wasn't the guy,
then it's not my problem.
Exactly.
They completely divorce themselves from any kind of connectedness to society, to family, to anything, because they've in that moment they've said, I am wholly autonomous.
Yep.
And only what I do matters to me. And it's a radical Randian objectivist kind of approach, where it's radically selfish. But then I think there's another side here of folks who kind of back into these kinds of issues.
What do you mean by back into them?
So we think about folks who are just overtly dismissive, and we assume malice.
Yeah.
I think there are other folks who just because of the demands of life, they haven't thought about what
Maslow's hierarchy.
Yeah, it's like they haven't thought about what the effect of the easy access to the lending market that white people have compared to African Americans,
because they're busy worrying about their own life and being able to put like a roof over their own head.
The fact that there are these statistical things that like say, hey, there's a problem here, things that we can look at and say, like, there's clearly something that needs to be addressed. What was it? We'll have to talk about what it is. These folks are like, yeah, I don't have time to even understand this.
Exactly.
It's like, and so they end up walking backwards, and it's like, I don't understand it, so I'm going to just kind of keep to myself and focus on what I do understand or think I understand.
I think that we have, this is one of those things that we have to, as people who are still trying to live the Christian way that Jesus, taught, not the one that like now somehow means also Republican. I think that we need to be more outspoken about these things because of that.
Yeah, and I think that's actually the thing that like Mere Orthodoxy, I think, can be commended for is like is going to task and saying, hey, this is a 1 Corinthians 12 issue. This is an issue of one part of the body, believing faithful brothers and sisters in Christ. What was it saying to another part of the body? Hey, we don't need you. You were never part of the body to begin with. Like, stop saying that you're part of the body. What was it? And having that kind of really divisive engagement.
Are we including the Mormons here?
Well, I guess that gets into that question of like, how do we define what it means to be a Christian?
You know what? We're going to visit that in the last story, because I think that's a nice. It's a good segue for the last story, but I think that this is another example. This next story, I think, is another example of where, people not only using wokeness as a pejorative term, but another brand of this level of this type of Christianity that we see today is being victimized. You're always victimized. There's always a war on Christmas, a war on Christianity, a war on war, because this country loves a fucking war. A war. It's
great for boosting domestic spending.
For real, dude. For real. That's it. That's all it is, guys. That's the reason. My friends are like, I have friends that are like, oh my gosh, I love the football, like the anthem and like the planes when they go over. It's like, yeah, that's $4 million of my tax dollars going toward advertising for the military. I don't think it's that pretty. So and this is just another arm of that. This is all that's all part of it. I have this story out of the Detroit News, and I found it kind of hilarious. A student sues West Michigan district. He claims he was punished for Christian beliefs. For Christian speech. This was a West Michigan high school junior filed a federal lawsuit against his high school district, alleging that his right to free speech and to practice his religion had been thwarted. The suit was filed on Thursday. Let's see here. Basically, the lawyers for the center claimed that the district suspended Stout for 3 days last fall for stating his Christian beliefs in a private text conversation in a hallway at Plainwell High School. According to the complaint, Stout said in a text that the Bible teaches that homosexual conduct is a sin and that everyone is a sinner due to free will choices. And they would pray for homosexuals to repent and follow Jesus. He also said that he extends the love toward them because God commands it. This is one of those things that infuriates me about evangelical Christianity, because it was the whole love the sinner, hate the sin, which, by the way, Jesus didn't say that shit. That's a Gandhi quote. For those of you trying to be, I want to love the sinner, hate the sin. Yeah, you're plagiarizing an Indian guy, not the Palestinian Jew that you pretend to follow. This is an example of, and this is a junior in high school, so he's being taught early to use his faith for victimization.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things at play here. Like, it sounds like there may have been some legitimate overreach by the school.
Yeah, and that is that. Yes,
like,
right.
What was it? So the school is monitoring, or somehow came to be monitoring the students' text messages decided that the content was offensive and thus needed to be reprimanded.
He also the center attorneys also claimed that school officials told Stout he had to stop sharing religious comments on social media. That I disagree with.
Yeah, that's absolutely
overreach.
That's totally overreach.
Yeah,
overreach. Like the school would have no right to tell your child to stop. What was it, like, counting?
Yeah.
What was it at the local park while someone's like trying to play a song, and then it's there's no reason for the school to be reaching into the private correspondence of these students. I mean, unless they're doing it in a disruptive fashion to the work the school is supposed to be doing. It's like, from what this sounds like, he's in a hallway, he's texting somebody, like that shouldn't be something the school gets involved with.
I agree. And the idea that honestly, the idea that they know what my text messages are saying, like, that's creepy. Unless somebody ratted him out. I guess somebody could have ratted him out.
It could have been the student that he was sending to decided, hey, this guy's
a prick.
It's like, there is absolutely other context that we're going to be missing here.
Yeah.
And of course, the lawyers for this guy, for this kid, they're going to try and make this as simple as possible.
Absolutely.
For us. And the reality is, it's a complex situation, and maybe he should have been suspended. We don't know the rest of the context.
That's true. In Twitch, Peach Baby 2022 says Jesus did flip the tables in the temple, though.
Yeah.
Some things we need to fight. However, no need to separate people. You're right. You know?
Yeah. And I think the example of Jesus flipping the tables in the temple is a great example.
Yeah.
Because what was he? He's flipping the tables in the temple.
Yeah.
Like, he walked into a church that had turned into a marketplace and drove the marketplace out.
So technically he was doing that to a marketplace. So, but at the end of the day, the entire story is kind of creepy. It's creepy because there's a child, junior, flexing his "I'm a victim" muscles, when he is a presumably white evangelical kid in Michigan. I'm rolling the dice. I don't think, as a gambling man, I'd bet on it. I don't know what the race of the kid is because they didn't say. But this is not, even if he was a black kid, the black evangelical kid, you're a Christian. Like, you're not being, okay, newsflash, if you're a Christian, you're not being persecuted. Okay.
At least in our country,
not context, in our country.
Yeah, not to any extent that historic Christianity would say, yeah, that's definitely persecution.
Yeah.
We're experiencing a lot of cultural discomfort.
Yes.
And maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. I think it's good because because as the Christian church gets uncomfortable, the Christian church has to define more clearly who they are. And I think the impulse there is going to be to define along worldly lines, political lines, like we're seeing, or to define along more biblical lines, saying we're going to go closer to Christ. And I think that's what we're hopefully going to see as we have, again, folks trying to use their faith and weaponize it in ways culturally, and other people stepping back and saying, no, that's not okay.
So the lawyers, the other thing that the center and Stout alleged that school officials punished him for, quote, not policing and reporting other students' inappropriate jokes. Where the hell is this school?
Okay, yeah,
where the hell is this school?
That seems like inappropriate jokes doesn't seem to me like the sort of thing that rises to the standard of mandatory reporting.
Yeah, not only that, but
oh, I heard that Timmy has a gun and he brought it with him to school.
That's a thing.
Yes.
Please do.
If you knew that and you did not let somebody know, it's like you have some culpability here that needs to be addressed.
I think that the story here is that the school is overreaching. Honestly, that's the big headline.
Yeah,
you have
I think that's what it sounds like. But I do want to say, it's like I think there is a reality to Christians trying to victimize themselves, and I think when we see Christians who are saying, "Hey, I was sharing my faith, I was sharing the gospel, I was sharing what I believe," and I'm being punished for it, and then filing a lawsuit to assert that right. It's like,
it's ridiculous.
If you really believe that you're supposed to suffer for your faith,
like, why are you bringing the Romans into it?
Then accept the ramifications that come from a increasingly unbelieving culture when you speak your truth into it.
I always
accept the discomfort.
I always love
the church in the Middle East does.
Yep. Well, that's what I love. I love the Christians who are all about the Blue Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. Completely missing the point that they're basically like at this point rooting for the Romans.
I mean, like there are some good social arguments to be had around like the nature of policing and what is it like and why do we have it? Where does it come from? Like there are some like I think there is a need for law enforcement, but we ask our cops to do way too much.
I agree.
We ask them to be babysitters and pick up truant kids.
Yeah.
We ask them to be mental health experts and to intervene in situations that are dangerous, even if you have the right training.
Yeah.
And we ask them to be nurses and to be,
but at the same time,
de-escalation experts. We ask our police to do an awful lot that's not really about law enforcement.
But I think that at the same time, when we talk about it that way, we also kind of are giving them a way out for like, oh yeah, no, we do. That's why I shot the guy, because I was just like too worried about everything.
Well, we still
I also don't want to give them a little bit.
Yeah, no, we still can't give an excuse for bad behavior.
Yeah.
But when you have people who are like issued guns, and then you say, okay, we want you to intervene in every possible situation that like we can think of, and we want you to be ready to respond with deadly force. No matter whether you're being called to come and actually deal with a violent offender threatening the lives of others, or a guy having an anxiety attack in his front yard.
But that's the thing. We don't look at those details. We only look at, again, it goes back to buzzwords. It goes back to simplicity. It goes back. And that's what evangelical Christianity has turned into. It's just buzzwords, quick stuff, God, country, and blah, 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 cheesy sayings. You have to love, the cops, and you have to do this and you have to do that. And it becomes cultural. Yeah. And that's actually where I want to bring up the last story that we have for today, which is the Jerry Falwell, Jerry Falwell Jr. Sorry, the other one's dead. Yeah. This is out of Christianity Today. The article is called "Jerry Falwell Isn't a Hypocrite," and this is by Russell Moore. Came out a couple of weeks ago. The piece was, I guess, adapted from Russell Moore's newsletter. So you could check it out all at ChristianityToday.com. Now, Jerry Falwell Jr. came under some fire because of a pool boy situation. I guess his has an open marriage or something like that.
Yeah, his preferred sexual proclivities, I suppose.
Yes. Now, was he banging the pool boy? Is that what's happening too?
I think it was he's watching as his wife is.
Okay, so he's into cuckolding. Okay, I mean, I'm not here to kink shame.
Yeah,
right.
And again,
whatever his kink is, whatever.
He was engaged in behavior that folks thought was inappropriate for a Christian leader.
Yes, unbecoming. Well, he was becoming, but that's not the point. He was caught with all of this, and then there was was there a picture of him and another chick or something like that, assistant or something?
Yeah, there's lots of scandalous elements here, and it's kind of hard to pick through it all.
It's just a grab bag of stuff.
Well, the thing that's actually really interesting is that Falwell at no point defended himself.
He what?
He never defended himself. He never stepped in and said, "Oh yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I was wrong," or "No, this is being mischaracterized." It's he basically accepted. It's yeah, I did this stuff. I wanted to. I got to give it to him. He was pretty straightforward in terms of and his. I think his another one of his comments. I'm a lawyer, not a preacher.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Okay. So you know what? I got to give it to him, because the thing is, somebody that's been on both sides of this whole evangelical bullshit, I can tell you that at the beginning, looking at it, I'm like, yeah, of course he's a hypocrite. Like that, duh. Like that's just kind of the brand of evangelical Christianity, right? But it turns out that he was just like, I'm just doing like I just have the same name as the guy who was the preacher.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make me him.
Yeah, and so like he goes on and claims that people assumed because of his name that he was religious.
Wow.
And now I do think there were definitely things that he did to lead people
to lead people on, of course,
to make that conclusion. But I think it's very clear at this point that was because it fit with his political calculations. What he wanted to do in a broader sense was assisted by identifying even in whatever superficial way as Christian, so that he could then garner political favor. So basically being the anti-Billy Graham, because Billy Graham was like really outspoken, at least
keep going.
Until later in his life. What was it when he started getting a little cozier with the right-wing politicians compared to how he tended to stay much more socially distant from others.
And you look at Falwell and you look at his sexual proclivities, and you look at, because I mean, obviously the reason he's in the position that he's in is because of his father, because of his family. What does it mean? And this goes back to, what does it mean to be a Christian?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think some of it comes back to like, why did anyone expect him to be a moral individual? I mean,
why did you expect him to be anything more than like a lawyer?
Well, yeah, it's like, or to uphold your particular moral values. And I think like his dad, his name led people to assume that he was also, a Christian. But I think Liberty University actually has a huge amount of culpability here, because they're the ones who actually put it front and center that they are training champions for Christ. And so when they take Jerry Falwell Jr. and they make him the head of this institution that is claiming that they are training champions for Christ, I think they are basically saying, hey, like, we're a Christian organization, so you can assume that we put a Christian at the top of this organization. Yeah. When apparently from Jerry Falwell Jr. saying he didn't tell them that.
Yeah,
he never claimed that. He was just doing he was doing what he thought was expedient for his means and his desires.
I wonder what the
so like that gets into why do we expect Christian institutions?
Do they have other people are there other people in the Falwell family in there other than Jerry?
I actually don't know. But like this gets to that issue is like, what do we expect of so-called Christian institutions?
And it's a pastor's kid.
Yeah.
Everybody, dude, I've never done more drugs than I have with a pastor's kid.
Yeah.
Like, for real.
And I think in this situation, what we're dealing with is Falwell kind of, he allowed people to make this assumption. He didn't dissuade it directly.
Yeah.
And so like people just followed after him because we assumed he was a Christian. There was no reason to doubt it that we knew about.
Yeah.
And why would an organization that is Christian lead us astray? It's like,
it goes back to this is what happens when you assume.
Yeah.
You make an ass out of you and your whole organization, apparently.
Yeah. Making these kinds of assumptions and even thinking that an organization can be Christian.
Yeah.
Because I think that's ultimately what we're tying to with like, what does it mean to be a Christian? Can a apartment complex be a Christian apartment complex?
I mean, MXPX was the remember the old MXPX thing? We're Christians in a band.
Yeah. And I think that's actually a much like better way to think about this. Like, I am expressing my Christianity in a context that is not itself Christian.
Yeah.
It doesn't become Christian because I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I remain Christian even when I'm in this non-Christian context.
Exactly.
And I think that's where, when we think about organizations, an organization can't be Christian.
Yeah.
It can be Christian adjacent because there's a bunch of Christians in it trying to do something. But,
sure.
But I mean, when we talk about like seminaries or or publishing companies or universities and whatnot, like they're only Christian to the extent that every single person in them is living consistently.
Sure.
And the reality is, like, no one's ever really living consistently with their Christian faith. It's like we're always warring against ourselves because that's the nature of the struggle. Like it's
but do we? Here's my question though, because now I'm assuming he stepped down, right?
Yeah,
he
was forced out, stepped down.
Yeah,
he left.
I'm guessing he's not going to stop his proclivities. I'm assuming he's no longer involved with the religious side of things.
Yeah, I don't know what his ongoing involvement is.
At the end of the day, this is a great lesson. Number one, don't assume. Number two, pastors' kids are awful.
Well, it's not just pastors' kids. I mean,
no, I'm just kidding.
Because this is not like an example of. I think Christianity Today is right, and Russell Moore's right. This is an example of hypocrisy. Ravi Zacharias is an example of hypocrisy.
Yes, for sure.
This is an example of Christians expecting the wrong things from the wrong people.
Yeah, and Ravi Zacharias was he was he the one with the rub and tugs?
Yeah. So, and the thing that was really discouraging about Ravi Zacharias is like this is something that people close to him who are supposed to be holding him accountable knew about.
Oh,
and
wow.
They didn't correct it when they had opportunities.
Yeah, this came out in February of last year, around actually almost a year ago today. The Ravi Zacharias did hundreds of pictures of women abused during massages and a rape allegation. This is a guy, for those of you who aren't in the know of Christian circles, Ravi Zacharias was, really highly regarded.
Yeah.
And this happened post-mortem, right? Didn't he die?
Yeah, he died,
and then it happened.
And then we figure out all this stuff. And of course, we figure out things that people knew.
Yeah,
like they knew.
What was their answer? What was the answer to they were just like, were they all shoulders?
There's I'm sure they had them. I don't know what they were. I don't know what they could have been that would have made it any better.
Yeah, this one's out of Christianity Today. A 4-month investigation found the late Ravi Zacharias leveraged his reputation as a world-famous Christian apologist to abuse massage therapists in the United States and abroad for over a decade, while the ministry, led by his family members and loyal allies, failed to hold him accountable, meaning obviously that they knew. He used his need for massages and frequent overseas travels to hide his abusive behavior, luring victims by building trust through spiritual conversations and offering funds straight from his ministry. So, wow. Arzim is that's right. He had a really cool. Man, I'm always now skeptical of any Christian organization with a cool name. I really am. Like, if you have a cool name, like, I need you to be like First Church of XYZ. Nothing fancy, no like Youth Today Church or, Youth Quake or any stupid thing like that.
Yeah, and I think this actually highlights part of this question is like, what does it mean to be a Christian? I mean, like, how do we look at someone like Ravi Zacharias and ask, like, was he a believer? Like, his conduct certainly seems out of line with it.
That's a great question.
But I mean, like, did he confess the faith? Did he believe that Jesus was raised from the dead? It's like, if he confessed and he believed, it's like, now obviously as we're looking at his behavior, his repentance and turning from sin seems to be lacking. And so there can be doubts there, but I think if we're looking at like Romans 10:9, like if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead,
how fucked up can you be? That's the question there.
Well, and that's a persistent question that's been raging since at least the 90s. when I remember hearing about it so much is this idea of cultural Christianity, but the assumption there was the carnal Christian, the Christian who has confessed Jesus with their mouth, but then lives the way that they want to.
Oh, I want a metal band. I'm going to make a metal band, and I'm going to call it Carnal Christian.
I'm sure somebody's beating you to it. It's a Christian metal band. It absolutely is. But as we think about like that, it's like, is that something that we would expect? Well, probably not. Like if we're looking at Scripture and saying, yeah, living in a way that people would look at you and say, you are defined by your sin.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like that confession of faith you made isn't looking like it really sunk in.
But is that what it is? Is that what it is? Or is there a threshold of fuck up that you can have?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't think there's a clear-cut answer. I think there are folks who want to tell us there is.
Sure.
There are folks who want to say, yeah, if you commit this sin, you're definitely not a Christian. No matter what you say, no matter what you believe, you're definitely not a Christian if you've done this.
Yeah.
Or if you've done these kind of things. They try to put you into categories and say, yeah, if you've done any of this kind of stuff, then what was it? You've got to be extra repentant in order for me to believe that you're a Christian.
You got to do 10 Hail Marys and a side of fries.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's a new kind of penance.
Yeah,
that's actually a pretty good analogy. It's like, but what we're saying is like, yeah, you've got to prove to me that you are a believer.
And who is the person? Because every time that we have a guy like Ravi Zacharias, who's supposed to be the guy, he's the guy that, like, you know, if you fuck up, you go, man, Ravi Zacharias, he got his shit together. Let me talk to him. And meanwhile, motherfuckers getting rubbing tugs and
beating up women. And
it's
like, I mean, it's not just that he's engaging in like sex work. What was it? It's like he's assaulting these people. It's like he's accused of rape.
Jesus Christ!
It's like this isn't like. It's like this isn't even I mean, like, not that we can put sin on a spectrum, but like this is one of those ones that's like everybody kind of like,
exactly.
Like there's no cultural debate about the validity of beating somebody up.
And the level of trauma that these women have to have endured to have somebody that you talk to about like intimate things regarding your spirituality, and then for that to turn into like this shit. Like, my God.
Well, it's why the Catholic sex abuse scandal was just so traumatizing.
Yeah.
Is because, like, wait a minute. Like, these are people, like, that we're supposed to be able to trust with anything. Like, everybody goes into that little box over there and confesses the worst things that they've done since the last time they were in that little box that they can remember.
Yeah.
And these people are hearing it and are supposed to be offering us, like, spiritual counsel,
and next thing you know, they're actually
they're fondling the altar boy.
Jesus
Christ. It's like this huge violation of trust.
Yeah. So here's the thing. At the end of the day, this is our the biggest thing. The biggest takeaway from here is don't assume.
Yeah, don't assume.
Don't assume that somebody's a Christian. Number one. Number two, like the idea that, you know, sharing a name and doesn't mean that, and we don't know what Jerry Falwell Sr. did. I mean, Jerry Falwell Sr., I mean, he could have skeleton in his closet. But at least Yeah.
It's just, do we think that they're skeletons that we ought to be scared of?
Yeah.
Or are they skeletons that are socially acceptable enough?
Sure.
To be let out? Because like I've heard, like I'm sure all of us have heard preachers who will get up there and talk about like their sin from this past week, how they weren't as loving or as gentle or as kind or whatever towards their child or their wife, so they have this sermon illustration of how they're sinners too. Like we're familiar with those kind of culturally accepted expressions of confession, but we still as a culture have a really hard time with folks like talking about real serious stuff and taking those people seriously.
You know what? I want the preacher. This is the next time. The only church that I really attend ever, whenever I get a chance to, whether it's online or in person, is Collective in DeLand. And the only other church that I'm going to attend is the next church that a preacher goes in front of the pulpit and gives me a real sin. Like a real, like, you know what? I punched a baby, or I don't know, something. Give me something that I can be like, you know what, man, you are human. Like, you know what? I went out with this chick and, like, you know, something. I don't know. Give me some. I broke down and you know, and just had way too much to drink, or I snorted a line of coke. The next preacher that tells me that they fucked up because they snorted a line of coke, and the congregation doesn't kick him out, that's the next church I attend. James, thank you for hanging out, brother.
Thank you for having me. It's always fun.
Yeah, man. My name is DJ Zouain. You can find me anywhere on social media at DJ Zouain, DJ Zouain, everywhere on social media. Find me at the end.fm. Subscribe to The Hijack. Subscribe to Irreverent. I'll be bringing the Hijack. We'll be back not next week, but the week after. And then after that, we'll have another Irreverent, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, until the end of time. So thanks for hanging out. And we'll talk to you next time. Next time? Next time. Bye.